It's Monday, and you know what that means. It's time for Wrestling Tonight, live from the No Sale Studios on the Ace of the Tavern, Acefield Retro, joined as always Monday, the one bad Chad. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. Another week of crazy news. We're here to cover it. I look forward to Mondays now. You know, I hope our growing fan base looks forward to hearing us break down all the stuff that's happening in the wrestling world. So I'm excited to be here, man, as always.
Yeah, and I'm excited as well. And thank you guys for the great feedback of the audio drop that we had last week. And really appreciate all of that feedback. And whether you're consuming on audio or live here, Wrestling Tonight, or you're reviewing it on demand, we just appreciate your support. Visit theturnbuckletavern.com to get all your links and all your shows. This is just setting the table for the rest of the week.
Absolutely. And just a quick little housekeeping thing before we dive into the big three. Obviously, like Ace said, if you guys are listening on the audio version that drops Tuesday mornings on the Turnbuckle Tavern's Apple and Spotify feed, we really appreciate it. If you're one of those people that happen to listen to our movie podcast, Broken VCR, and you're like, where the hell did that go on Tuesday mornings? We're getting its own channel. It's coming. Me and Hawk are stockpiling episodes. We have 2 in the can waiting to be released. As soon as that is up and live, we'll be plugging it. But thanks for tuning in to our new show, Wrestling Tonight. We appreciate you guys. If you're listening to the audio, if you ever get an opportunity, you can come look at me and Ace's ugly mugs talk about it live. So yeah, I'm excited. I love the new show. I hope you guys are enjoying it.
All right, let's get into the first story, man. Why waste time?
Yeah, let's get into the big three.
Story number 1, how could we not let it lead with rest in power, Jay Briscoe, everything that went down almost a week ago at this point. You guys all know the story, but let's just review it here. He got into a car accident, terrible situation. Head-on collision. We are now getting all the details in following. Thankfully, his daughters were in the car and okay. And, you know, we're just kind of thankful looking at the silver lining of the situation. It felt like every show we were on doing right by the situation by paying tribute. I feel like an outpouring of love, not just by the wrestling community, but fans at large. We are all still in shock and upset. And, you know, the only way we can do this is talk to each other about our memories of the Briscoes and Jay Briscoe specifically.
Yeah, absolutely devastating. I think this is, you don't like to compare grief. You know, anytime you lose a wrestler, it's awful. It's terrible. You know, with Brody a few years ago, obviously, you know, the Eddies, the Pillmans, we've lost so many wrestlers. It seems like it's became kind of a recurring motif of the industry of pro wrestling is losing guys young. And obviously we lost Scott Hall. We lose legends. Everything's awful, but this Jay Briscoe one, man, there was a certain thing about it that I felt like it really hit different with the guy who, you know, with some in the past, you know, drugs may have been an issue. Substance abuse may have been an issue. An illness that we don't see may have been an issue, but for something so tragic like a freak head-on collision to take a guy out when he's just kind of peeking into that stratosphere of mainstream, it was so devastating. The outpouring from the wrestling community has been incredible, and I think to see all of the different celebrations of Jay Briscoe across all promotions, whether it was the ROH show that Tony Khan put on after Dynamite and Rampage, whether it's New Japan and Noah doing that joint, the Tanahashi holding the picture of Jay in the ring. I mean, this guy affected the entire wrestling community across seas, every promotion, kind of. GCW, I saw they put a really nice video package out. It just shows you how I feel like we're beating a drum that's been said on every podcast, but you can't not say it. This guy gave a lot to the industry. I would argue maybe one of the top 2 or 3 wrestlers to impact the business that wasn't ever under the WWE banner.
100%. And, kind of eerie. I was looking up his age and like he's so young, 38 years old, same age as Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah.
That the number just struck out to me. And you mentioned before, if he was any other place in that moment, it wouldn't have happened. That's why it feels so shocking. And we're all dealing with it in the same way. And the best way to deal with it is talking about his legacy. And that's how he's going to be living on. And what a catalog of matches, whether it be in singles competition or tag team action, his legacy, like you mentioned before, him and his brother Mark were two of the last pioneers of independent wrestling, going town to town, making all the dates. You think about WrestleMania weekends when they're working GCW, Impact, they're also working ROH. So, cut from a different cloth, truly. They were guys that were doing it differently than it has been done, setting the mold because they established what that mold was. And it, like you mentioned before, it's such a shame because it felt like they were getting ready to break through and be on that casual audience's TV. And then now it's at this point, it's in memorandum of what went on. And it sucks because there was still a lot of memories. And we'll get into some of the stuff that they're talking about. We can go into what Tony Khan said. And Tony Khan's handled this with a lot of class, and how he's handled the situation with Brody Lee set the tone for how he'd handle things going forward. But he's definitely a man of conviction and of honor, and he leads by example. And the things he said, he sucks. It's really terrible. A major focus for ROH in 2023 was going to be the contract memorial show, the Briscoes. And I still want to honor the life and career of Jay and the legacy of the Briscoes. He was a great guy, a really nice person, incredibly well liked by his peers. And that sentiment goes a long way. We keep seeing that over and over again, whether it's guys that he's worked with 15 years ago, guys he worked with 15 months ago. Everybody seems to be saying the exact same thing in different ways. And even the stuff with the fans, man, like seeing some of the stories about all these anecdotal stories. I heard, you and Sneed talking on the flagship about them recording the drop for Turnbuckle Tavern and hearing how nice and how genuine they were to their fans. And it just, I don't know, just shows you the outreach that people and the effect that every interaction we have on a daily basis can have on somebody. And like people remember all these small moments that maybe Jay wouldn't have even remembered, but like it lives through everybody that's come in contact with them.
I heard an incredible story from Tommy Dreamer talking about the Briscoes, and he'd known Jay and Mark since they were like 17, 18 years old. And he told a story how he was at this indie show and he saw Jay and Mark just walking down the street after the show. And he pulled up and was like, "You guys need a ride?" And they were like, "No, man, we're good." And there were fans with them. They're like, we're going to walk with our people. And they were all about just hanging out with the people that support them. And there was no rock star bullshit with the Briscoes. They always stayed true to the fans. They always respected the fans. And for my money, man, I know a lot of people, it's easy to say, well, they never made it to the big show, so you can't put them in this upper echelon with, I've heard the Usos, I've heard FTR, and I love both of those teams, FTR especially. But for me, like, I think Briscoes are a top 2, top 3 team in the modern era. I look at the body of work. Look at what they've done. The heartbreaking thing to me is I hope new wrestlers fill that void that Jay is leaving behind, because he was a old school guy. Like he loved pro wrestling. He loved the in-ring storytelling of it. No one brought an intensity like Jay Briscoe brought. You hear so many people talking in the last week about how they were intimidated by Jay. When they first met him in the locker room, the boys were intimidated by him because all they knew was what they saw on TV. And he was such a believable guy, full of attitude, that other wrestlers who they're smartened up, they know the deal, they're still intimidated by this guy, and they meet him and he's like the nicest guy. So it's such a bittersweet thing. I talked about it on the flagship about how I hate that it takes situations like this to get people to come out and talk and give the flowers to someone and make the masses see how beloved they were. You don't hear that until a tragedy happens, but I feel like everything we're hearing is so genuine and so heartfelt. It's really moved me as a wrestling fan over the last week to hear everything about Jay.
Yeah, and we're just reunited by our fandom and our memories. And I think gathering together, whether it be in person or social media or here on this podcast, discussing the things we remember fondly about the Briscoes. And this isn't just, recent. You can listen to the flagship for the past 10 months. Like the Two Bad Chads have been talking about sign the Briscoes. And we just had the end of the year Turnbuckle Tavern 10, where you guys were having the discussion about that they should be higher than the Usos because of what we're talking about. And I think if we wider the net of this, where people are casting, they'd understand there's more wrestling out there that maybe isn't under the umbrella of just WWE or just AEW. There's a lot of wrestling out there. But I mean, let's get into you mentioned the
real quick, Ace.
Yeah.
Check the fucking tape, because if you listen to the flagship, if you watched me and Mike and Ace, you popped up on it a lot. If you watched the GCW show when we were airing that, we've been big on the Briscoe bandwagon. Ring of Honor, the Honor Society show, all of us have beat the drum of signing them, man, with this. And I don't know where you were going to take it because I cut you off.
No, I mean, essentially that about why they were not on a big stage. And it's the same thing that we're seeing why they weren't allowed to have a tribute show on TBS. And that's the reason why of these tweets that are out there, 2 tweets to be exact. We won't read them here. It doesn't matter at this point, but people know the tweets and there's controversy behind them, and Warner Brother Discovery can't get past them. My argument is let's have some consistency, because following Dynamite, you have Harry Potter showing, and J.K. Rowling she's come out and she's had more than just one tweet. She's currently tweeting a lot of transphobic, ideas and ideology. And not to mention too, also following Dynamite, you have the Slap show with Dana White,
Slap,
who he just was on New Year's Eve, slapped his wife on TV. So all I'm asking is, if you're going to be consistent, be consistent. And at the same time, if you're not going to be able to honor the Briscoes, who at this point, it's over a decade ago, just about 2013 is when the tweet went out. At this point, like you said, the proof is in the pudding about the reactions from all these wrestlers, guys from, all different types of backgrounds, specifically those types of backgrounds that he was apparently, being disrespectful towards. So we can even go to Effie. Jay Briscoe showed me respect and love when everybody told me he wouldn't. If you knew Jay, you knew he would uplift everyone in that locker room, regardless of whatever world they came to wrestling from, the best. And you put in Ian Riccaboni's quote on here too, if you want to lead with that. I mean,
yeah, Ian Riccaboni said Jay never had a bad word to say about anyone in private. We spoke of regret of his past comments and he would ask me very specific questions about things or concepts that were different than what he was familiar with. Something in my heart told me and knew that Jay was a good soul. Despite his previous comment, I knew I could trust coming out to him as someone that is on the sexuality spectrum or queer on the occasion that he asked what exactly that meant. Jay didn't treat me better, worse, or any different from that moment forward. We remained great friends. I often wanted to tell this story, but I wasn't ready to tell others, and I didn't want to crack the illusion of the ultra tough Jay Briscoe, but I was ready to tell him, and I trusted him, and he never betrayed that. Here's my problem with Warner Brothers Discovery. You hear Effie talk about this man. You hear Ian Riccaboni talk about this man. These are men who shared a locker room with him. And you've got this power structure corporation that sees this one quote from 10 years ago, and they want to paint this man in a certain way. We have not trying to get political or speak on the state of the world, but we have a really bad problem in society today where we don't allow anyone to have a moment of redemption. People change. People say stupid shit. And if you can't allow them to grow as a human being and become a better person, or share different beliefs than you, like, you have to allow people that ground to grow, to become better, and to just hold his feet to the fire and keep them from progressing in their profession when everyone around them that would knew sang their praises. I think every situation should be taken specifically that on that situation. Go talk to the boys. Go talk to the people that know them. Go talk to the people that interact with them. Really dive into who this guy is and stop worrying about Twitter backlash over some bullshit that happened years ago that they had infinitely apologized for over and over. It's like at a certain time, man, you can't just keep saying I'm sorry. You have to move, you have to grow, and it's up to people in power structures allow that growth, allow that redemption. And I hate that we're so quick to just tear people down for some one-off comment. Like, we have to allow people to grow. And I think it's proven through all the comments. You know, you read Effie, I read Ian Riccaboni. Those are two comments of guys that really knew Jay.
2 of like 35 that we have listed here. We don't even have the time to list all the guys.
Exactly.
From Carrie Silkin to Adam Cole, like, you know, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, guys from all different backgrounds of whatever. They've all shared locker rooms at different times in his life. And, you know, that's the big thing to me is there's other guys that have had transgressions in the past, like Excalibur, in character, PWG, infamously with that promo, saying a slur in the ring. You can also go with Sammy Guevara. He's been forgiven twice now. Yep. So the thing is, actions speak louder than words. And at this point, you know, as we see through everyone's reaction to his passing, you know, his actions speak for themselves. And it's a shame at this point we're talking about it retroactively, not that, you know, we didn't get to see him on AEW television.
One of the comments from the guys that really struck me, and I think it was visible on Dynamite, you could see the emotion in his face, was Nick Jackson from the Young Bucks.
Right.
I mean, he came out, you could tell those guys were really feeling it. And, you know, Nick Jackson said, we always say they're the best tag team in the world that wasn't showcased to a national audience. We wanted to change that. We tried recruiting them from day one to AEW, literally would beg on a weekly basis. Tony tried his hardest. And when we bought ROH, that was one of the first things he did was sign them to long-term contracts. And I think Nick went on to say that there was never a more intense team they faced. And just hearing the Bucks talk about how family was, I mean, a lot of people are coming out and talking about, you know, family first with Jay. And it was all about his family and his children and his wife. And the peek into the man behind the persona is always fascinating to me, because in wrestling, I feel like the old school guys really do a good job of hiding that and seeing that peek into who he really was. Even, you know, I know they were such legends in their community. His mother worked for the school system. His wife worked for the school system. They shut school down.
Yeah.
I mean, hearing Mike Sefervivi on Wrestling Observer, he's from that area, and he said people don't realize how important that family was to that area. So you're talking about a very, very a very giving man to his community. They did a lot of things for kind of a downtrodden area of the world, like, and brought a lot of joy to the people there. So it really bums me out, man. I think everyone's kind of echoing those sentiments, but I think we will fill his legacy. Jay Briscoe will live on. And I think a lot of the comments we're seeing from the wrestling community, he's not going to go by the wayside. These are the legends that kind of become myths. You hear those names. Jay is now one of those guys that you'll hear the legend of Jay Briscoe.
Yeah, and what better finale? Not that we knew it was the finale, was this trilogy with FTR. It's like the perfect end cap of what was an already legendary career, and people are sharing their favorite matches, favorite moments in time, and the Briscoes have, you know, a catalog of it. but it's just like it feels like they ended their last 3 matches on a public stage or big stage, I should say, with ROH, because they wrestled. Other than that, we can talk about the main event moment with on House of Glory, putting them over huge. They're a made team at this point because of that moment, and all the other teams they wrestled in between at smaller indies. All those guys are touched by this, and their impact is larger than we can even imagine, because, as you said, the legend's going to grow. And I think that the fact that the whole tape collection, the film, is with Tony Khan, it's kept in safe hands. So hopefully we'll get, good use out of it to pay tribute. It sucks that that's sort of what we're talking about, but silver lining is that Tony Khan, we know he's going to do right by the whole thing with Ring of Honor, and making sure that the collection is done right by.
Yeah, and holding titles in GCW, ROH, House of Glory, Impact Wrestling. What a 2022. That epic trilogy that will go down in the annals of pro wrestling as one of the greatest of all time with FTR. And, real recent news that should be said is, thank God his daughters are pulling through what looked to be a pretty devastating, dire situation. One of his daughters had no feeling below her waist. She's regained the feeling in her legs. The feeding tube has been taken out of one. So, there's a long road of grief and recovery for that family, and my heart's with them. But they're pulling through. It could have been way worse with his 2 daughters in that car with him. And I love hearing a little bit of good news in this story that they're going to, recover from this.
Yeah, and we got to also talk about what's going on with Mark as well. So do we know exactly if he's going to continue wrestling? I know that's all in due time, but you mentioned it before, potentially having that moment at Supercard of Honor WrestleMania weekend, which felt like the Briscoes weekend. I don't know, it'd be an awesome scene to have him potentially take that ROH championship run. He's never had it. Jay's the only one to have held it out of the two of them, but potentially to have, the world title run from Mark would be epic, in my opinion.
Man, those are moments that I think that's one of the beautiful things about pro wrestling, is taking reality and tragedy and honoring the fallen in the ring in their own way. And I can't think, if Mark continues on, I can't think of a better way to do that than to give him his moment and honor Jay in the process. And there wouldn't be a dry eye in the house, man. You want to talk about pulling the fans in. The fans want that. The fans want Mark to lift Mark up. That's his brother. That's his older brother. We want to be there. We want to. It's very similar to Brody in -1. Look how -1 was just kind of, the wrestling community just put their arms around him. And shit, when he would come out, it became this, it's like he's a part of our family now, and I feel like there's going to be a groundswell of, I can't imagine that moment of Mark with I just can't imagine that moment. And I hope it happens.
Yeah, same here. And who knows, again, like we mentioned, Mark needs time to do his own thing and get past this in his own way, spend time with his family, but we would love to see him back in the ring. And, he has a lot more to give to the business, and that's, what he does best is wrestle. So we'd love to see him there. And I'm sure Tony Khan would do right by him and Jay's legacy by booking him in the right way. And I think it would be amazing to see. I didn't even think about that when you were mentioning before. It almost writes itself. It's similar to Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio situation, 2006. It could be something special.
Yeah, we have a couple comments in the chat. Bell says, "Long live Jay Briscoe. Prayers go out to the wife, his kids, Mark Briscoe, and the rest of the family in this time." Bell also says, "As a bisexual, did Jay fuck up with his tweet? Of course, but he also showed remorse, did everything to educate himself and make it right, and up until recently admitted he fucked up and apologized. That's key." Sneed's in the chat. He says, "Triple H making a statement about it says a lot about the guy." And Harry Cleaver says, "Obviously it's not the point, but I'm almost certain Jay Briscoe headlines the Hall of Fame induction ceremony this year." Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be, we're going to see a lot more. I don't think that ROH show is the end of it, that AEW showed. I think there's going to be a lot more coming as far as tributes and honoring his legacy.
100%. And we'll continue to talk about Jay Briscoe as time goes on and his legacy. And I've been binge watching all those matches. I actually subscribe to Honor Club. And the format, by the way, of Honor Club isn't great, but all the content is there. So if you guys are interested in doing that, I think it's like $10 a month. So I definitely been going through, checking it out, and it's been awesome to see and watch some of these old matches. They need to fix the audio issues because they don't just dub over audio similar to Peacock. They just automatically mute it until music is done playing. So that was a little annoying, but I watched the cage match with Samoa Joe back in 2004,
Yeah.
I think it was. So things like that, those moments live forever. And how much they've evolved as competitors too, to how much they've learned. And he was so good back then. He got even better as time went on.
Yeah, I think I heard someone, maybe Tommy Dreamer, someone said that right out of the gate, you could see that they were naturals. They just had it. And not just in the ring. I mean, they were total package wrestlers. On the mic, I've never I've never laughed harder at a promo and been scared shitless more from a promo than Jay Briscoe. He had the intimidation factor, but also this undercurrent of comedy. I can't sing their praises enough. And like you said, we'll continue to sing their praises here on Wrestling Tonight for sure.
And just before we're, moving on to the next topic, make sure you guys go to AEWshop.com, get that shirt, reach for the Sky Memorial shirt. All the proceeds go to the Briscoes family, or just straight up, go to the GoFundMe and donate money there. Just anything you can do, any little bit helps in their trying time. And everyone's been more than generous, but continue that way. We want to continue to keep them on our mind and help them through this anyway.
Absolutely.
All right. You want to get to the next story here?
Yeah, let's do story number 2.
We had the Great Muta final bye-bye, and this was a really, really cool moment that a lot of people may have not watched because obviously it's on Japanese time, early morning. But Keiji Muto wrestled his final match as the Great Muta on Sunday morning, teamed with AEW's Darby Allin and Sting. Muta defeated Akira, Akushi, and Marufuji in the main event of the Great Muta final bye-bye event. Finish was awesome. Muta missed Akushi, and as he fell when he was doing the rope walk, and then Sting followed with the Scorpion Death Drop. Darby hit the coffin drop, and then Muta pinned Hakushi with another Shining Wizard. So a really nice finish. And yeah, by the way, that Hakushi, by the way, if you're wondering if it's that Hakushi, yeah, same dude from the WWF in the early 90s, looking better than ever, by the way. But after the match, we had Allin, Sting, Muta all celebrating together. And then Sting and Allin went to the back, and the announcer said Muta's name one final time as the pyro went off. So also, kind of little note here, the Great Kabuki introduced him and came to the ring. When the Great Muta character was first introduced to WCW in 1989, it was explained by Gary Hart that he was the son of Kabuki. So it was a nice little callback. But this isn't his final match. It's the final match as the Great Muta, but he'll be wrestling under his shoot name on February 21st. And that's going to be against Naito. So that's going to be a sick match at the Tokyo Dome. And this is going to be another I don't know what the event is called, but it's definitely going to be an event that you don't want to miss. Him and Naito are going to go out and crush it. And
Naito's awesome
as Muta's last opponent. And why not?
I mean, the Great Kabuki touch was just such a nice thing to bring in. As a kid, my dad was not a pro wrestling guy, but he for whatever reason, he knew the Great Kabuki. So he would always say that name. So I grew up as a child knowing the Great Kabuki, and then obviously the Great Muta was the guy. I remember Great Muta and Terry Funk teaming up to take on Ric Flair and Sting in a Thunderdome match. Incredible stuff. Great Muta in WCW was so good. I loved when, AEW brought Muta in for that special moment a couple months back. But I love the way Japanese wrestlers, legends, do these final tours almost. Like I thought Jushin Thunder Liger really, really kind of went out as a legend, I think the way Great Muda's handling this is incredible. And I love that he brought Sting back into the fold. And for Darby Allin to get that shine from, I mean, he's been getting the Sting shine, but for him to kind of be brought into this Muda match, Sting had a hand in that. And what a feather in Darby Allin's cap to put this match there. It's incredible, man. I loved it.
Yeah, if you would have went back 6-7 years where Darby Allin was living in his car and someone knocked on the window and said, "Hey, fast forward, stick it out, man. Keep wrestling, keep grinding. You're going to be in Japan for Great Muda's final match, teaming with Sting." I mean, that's what dreams are made of at this point. So, he has to pinch himself and wonder, how did he get so lucky to be here? But it's all talent, man. That dude, as you and I were talking off air, Darby Allin continues to impress, put his body on the line every moment. So there's no young wrestler that I think appreciates it more and deserves it more than a guy like Darby Allin, because he shows every time out that he's willing to do whatever it takes to entertain the fans. And we don't see that enough across all boards of entertainment, but Darby Allin lives and breathes professional wrestling.
Absolutely. And Bell in the comments says, "I'm thankful that WWE did allow Muda and Shinsuke to have one more match before Muda walked off into the sunset." That's another great thing in this kind of farewell tour of Muda. It was awesome to see him with Shinsuke. And then you get him with his old rival Sting and Sting's new protege Darby. They've really handled this bye-bye tour of Great Muda with just expertise, man. Just so well done. I've really enjoyed seeing the Muda get a proper send-off.
Yeah, and I think, like you mentioned before, the Japanese wrestling community does a really good job of doing that. You mentioned Liger, but all the way down the line, I mean, paying tribute to Inoki at Wrestle Kingdom this year, they do a really good job of paying homage to their legends. And at this point, Muda doesn't move as quickly as he did, but he could still do, hit all the sweet spots and do all the things he used to do with the Shining Wizard. But everybody is understanding of his legacy and what he brings to the ring. And you mentioned before, WCW 1989. I was born in 1989. The guy was wrestling in WCW, and he was wrestling prior to that. That's when he just broke into WCW. So, man, we talk about Sting and Muda. They kind of go hand in hand. They're all-time rivals, but the careers are rivaling as far as longevity goes as well, where a guy like Sting mentioned too, maybe he'll do a bye-bye tour himself. He made that quote, and I'm sure we're going to show it in 1 second. I just think about both of them. It's like serendipity that they're continuing to tie into each other. And it's so well done when a story's written like that.
Yeah. They were brothers of the paint, man. It was like they had the face paint. They were on opposite sides of the globe. Such good rivals during those early WCW days. I mean, 1989, I was 6 years old, 6 years old, depending on the time, but,
right.
He was always there as a kid, and such a kind of mysterious figure. It was the first time I had been exposed to the green mist. I mean, such an iconic Japanese staple. But yeah, you mentioned the presser. A couple interesting things coming out of the presser. We have a clip. We kind of combined 3 little pieces. So here is a couple highlights from the Muda presser after the Noah event.
Maybe bye-bye for Sting in Japan.
Oh, you're good.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
It's my first time in Japan. I honestly don't know how I'm going to top this. Muda's last match, Sting's possible last time in Japan, but Darby's first, and hope it's of many. So, thank you Muda, thank you Sting, thank you Noah. TNT Championship.
Thank you. You young boy.
I won't forget Muda.
Man, that's fantastic.
I love
I can watch it over and over again.
Yeah, Darby took the young boy duties and willed Muda out. That was so great. And then Sting saying, this might be my last time in Japan. And I love that Muda gave him props. Like, no, you're still good. You're still good. He's like, I don't know, maybe, So such good stuff there.
Has there ever been also with Sting just handled better by a North American company, this legacy act where he doesn't feel overexposed, he still feels fun to watch, and they're doing right by everything he can still do in the ring? I don't know, man. Like, when I was a little bit hesitant when Sting was with AEW, I thought it was going to be something, and this is the mistake that a company like Impact or WCW made by put him in the main event and outshining the younger talent, but he complements the younger talent. He makes them better by being in the ring. And even if he goes over sometimes, he's always emphasizing the other guys in the ring, either selling for them or like Darby Allin is going to have this rub forever from this and from Sting. It's going to be attached to him for the best part of his career. And that's, what else could you ask for? I mean, like it's fantastic.
Oh man. I mean, we're in January 2023. So essentially we are 4 years from the inception of AEW. You know, it was announced in January of 2019. So I think in those first 4 years, top 2 or 3 things handled correctly by Tony Khan has been his handling of Sting. I think there's not a lot of holes you can poke in the way he's booked that legend. And I think legends, a lot of times, like you said, the impacts, a lot of companies bring these guys in and it doesn't hit. But I feel like the way Sting has been booked in these last few years, his final run, I think it's been all hits, no misses.
Yeah, and you mentioned before the Japanese audience, and even with the Sting with AEW of managing someone's legacy on their tail end of their career, because clearly we're saying goodbye to Sting, whether it be a year from now or a couple months from now. But also think about guys that transition out of WWE, and the most egregious one that comes to mind is Kurt Angle, where you feel like the legendary career that was Kurt Angle, and he has his last match with Baron Corbin, and he's jobbing all the way up until then. Like, that's the two stark differences we have in approach of honoring your past. And I love that Tony Khan's taking a page out of other companies' playbook, like, you know, New Japan Pro Wrestling or All Japan or whatever, paying homage to their stars of the past, while WWE just sends you out to pasture and says goodbye. I mean, the only guy they've done that right with was Taker, but it took a million times of getting there. And they've only done right by Taker. Everybody else feels like when you're done, someone else is replacing you like a cog in a wheel.
Yeah, it definitely feels like the cog in the wheel. You're a part of a machine. When you're old and broken down, we bring the young guy in to replace you. Don't get me started on the Kurt Angle shit, man. Kurt Angle's in my top 10 wrestlers of all time. I love Kurt Angle, and the way they handled him in the end was like just another reason why I can't get behind that Vince McMahon way of booking, man. I just can't do it. It was blasphemous to me to treat Kurt Angle like that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could also say they did right by Flair as well. But even Shawn Michaels, like, they brought him back to the Saudi Arabia, you know, and I don't know, let's go back to Great Muta for a sec. The way they handled it was beautiful, and it was done with such class and so much, you know, attention to detail on his career, even if it didn't happen in their company. That's the beautiful part about it.
Right. Yeah. If you break it down to a microcosm of how cultures handle things, the Japanese are very known. Like, they're not sticking their grandparents in nursing homes like we do in the States. There is an honor to the older generation. And I think that shows in the way they handle their wrestling legends too. And I think with some of the people in the States, as far as wrestling promotions, there is that he's old, put over the young guy, get him out of here. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I think Tony Khan, the way he handles legends, it really is kind of a page out of the Japanese way of booking. Because even little subtle things, like when he did the dog collar match with Cody and Brody Lee, and you had Greg Valentine sitting in the audience watching the match. This was during the pandemic. Such little touches like that you're honoring a legend of that gimmick match, the dog collar match between Piper and Valentine, iconic match. We bring that guy in for our dog collar match. Little touches like that give me hope in the way, you know, you can poke holes in some things that Tony does, but for the most part, I think his heart is usually in the right place. And the way he's honored Sting, and I think it's a page out of the way Japan is handling Great Muta.
Yeah, and I mean, you feel rewarded for being an educated fan that's been following the career of any of these guys. and you feel empowered by the fact that like, wow, I watched this guy go out and his career feels, honored. Like that's the
Yeah.
other thing. There's so many people that are watching this final match, hoping that they do right by him. And it's a sad moment to watch one of their favorite wrestlers retire, but it's honestly, it's done in such a amazing way. It's, I don't know, brings a tear to your eye a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. You ready to move on to the third story here?
Yeah. Let's get into the third one.
So we got the Royal Rumble this Saturday, my favorite WWE event, a great time to hang out and enjoy this. 30-man Rumble. What's better than this? All the surprises, all the moments. Most of my favorite WWE memories, a lot of them would be taking place in a Rumble. Go back to 1992 or, the Ric Flair Rumble. I just love this event. And we got some good matches up here, and leading by Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns. We got Bianca Belair versus Alexa Bliss. Bray Wyatt versus LA Knight in a pitch black match sponsored by Mountain Dew. We're unaware about what it is, but there's been some rumor today prior to us going on the air, and Raw is going on the air in 15 minutes, but Taker's going to be there. And apparently he's part of a segment to build this up. So we will see following this, but they did announce last week that Cody Rhodes will be in the Rumble. And there's been some discussion about whether that was the right thing to do or spoiling the surprise, or it was the worst kept surprise. I think this is everybody circled the Rumble as a return date for Cody Rhodes, and they had him come back. Before we get into the odds of who wins and stuff, do you think it was the right move to announce that Cody Rhodes was coming back?
Yeah, we did all know. Like, it's not, and I get that. I don't buy into this whole let's announce it so people will watch. People are watching the Rumble. You don't have to tell me Cody Rhodes is entering the Rumble. My whole thing is like, why do it? Like, why say that? Like, yeah, we all know, but just have it happen. I know the Raw Down boys on our channel, if you watch the Raw Down on Thursdays at 8 p.m., they were kind of poo-pooing the critique that fans get upset when surprises, when they don't get surprises. I do think like you don't need a shit ton of surprises in the Rumble. I get that. But when you're announcing 25, 24, 23 entrants in the Rumble, it's kind of lame, man. It's kind of lame. The beauty of the Rumble to me is sitting down and seeing who comes out. I'm not saying like I need a bunch of shocking surprises, but I do like to see who are the 30. Who are the 30? Who are the 30 from this roster that they choose? And I just don't see a need in announcing someone entering into the Rumble. Why do we need to know that? Why do we need to know that? It's the Royal Rumble. You're watching it because it's the Rumble. You're not watching it because so-and-so has entered the Rumble. You're watching it because it's the Rumble. So don't preface the Rumble by saying this guy's in it, this guy's in it. I think it's so unnecessary to announce he's going to be there. He's going to be in the match. We all kind of get that. You don't have to tell us. I don't know.
Same thing with WrestleMania. Everybody knew it was Cody, but they didn't know until it happened. So at least we could have had that smithering doubt that might not have Cody been ready for the event. But the other thing I kept thinking, and silver lining, positive spin on it, is maybe it's a flex because they feel like they have, and the quote says here, a source states they are more than pleased with the other surprises that are lined up. Maybe it's like, you know what? We have so many surprises. Who cares? We'll give you this one. This is how good it's going to be. So that's also how I was thinking about it as well.
No, there is that. I think that gives me a little bit of like, okay, but that also ups the ante for me. If I'm seeing a statement like that, and WrestleVotes has been pretty rock solid.
Yeah.
They don't report bullshit really. So if their source states they are more than pleased with the other surprises lined up, now you've amped up my expectations. It better not be the fucking Repo Man. You know what I mean? Like,
agreed, dude.
You got to give me something then. If you've said that, I'm going to be expecting something. So let's see how it goes. So
early betting odds on DraftKings right now for the Royal Rumble, which is amazing. You can vote on, you can bet on wrestling. It's amazing. Right now, Cody Rhodes is the favorite at a negative 160. The Rock and Sami Zayn are at plus 200 and Seth Rollins is plus 800. I would say categorically, those are the 4 favorites right now. You mentioned potentially having Seth Rollins win. See Belle in the chat here says she would give it to Sami. Personally, I would give it to Sami as well. I think right now, sometimes you have to shift where you're going, and the plan was probably always for Cody to win, always for Cody to dethrone Roman Reigns. But sometimes there's an organic happening that you just have to ride the wave and go with it. Austin 316 was an organic wave that they rode. And I'm not saying Sami's at that level right now, but if you pull the trigger on this and have that moment, it could be something that's very, very special that people remember forever. And you can have another transcendent star because you know what Cody is already. Cody's already a main eventer. Maybe you have another one on your hands akin to Mick Foley with Sami Zayn. You know, like I feel like he's right there ready for the taking because people are so behind this bloodline storyline.
You're spot on, Ace. What was the caption you put on your photo at Acefield Retro?
Accidental Renaissance, the photo where he's standing. It's what it was.
So true. They did not plan this. I mean, they put him in there to add a wrinkle, but they did not plan this to get over like it has. And to their credit, they've ran with it, which I think it's a sign of hope in WWE's booking that they've kind of ran with this. And if they really want to, I'm with you, man. It's like Stone Cold. They just hitched their horse to this guy and went with it because the crowd dictated. And I think Sami right now has kind of got the wrestling fan base. I think there's an argument he's the hottest act in the company right now.
100%, man. And like if you pull the trigger and say the bloodline turns on him I think the bloodline has to turn on him. I think that's what it has to be. Most people are saying they feel like Sami should turn on them. I don't think so. I think you really build that sympathetic baby face where he just wanted to be loved by this group of guys and he just wasn't accepted. And I could just picture it of him just groveling. They tear the shirt off of him. Man, that's how you build a baby face that people are going to explode if he's the guy that beats Roman. I'm not saying maybe they don't do that, but just having the Rumble win after that could be enough to build a mega star. And then you can go off with Cody and do something at SummerSlam.
The biggest fan reaction they could get for the person winning the Rumble is Sami Zayn. The only
Agreed.
person that could come close to that would just be off of sheer star power would be The Rock. But that's not a pop because you're excited he won. That's more of a pop of The Rock. He's The Rock.
But also, how quickly will people turn on The Rock? We've seen this before.
Oh, quick.
You know, it's like, first of all, can he work the same way? Probably not. He's massive. I don't think he can move around the ring the same way. And people love Roman Reigns. I could totally see The Rock being booed at WrestleMania in lieu of Roman Reigns. I can guarantee it's not going to go the way they want it to go. And it may just be all for naught. Maybe they can't get him, maybe whatever. But I don't think it's going to be this beloved babyface reaction. Maybe at first because it's the shock that he's there. But I think on the road to WrestleMania, people are going to turn on him.
Oh, I agree. I think there's a lot of that part-timer bullshit that'll come into
100%.
play. Like, we know you're not in it for the long haul. You're just kind of coming back for an instant, and it'd be cool. I like The Rock. It'd be cool to have him back for a little run here, but I think Sami gets a bigger reaction than even Cody Rhodes. I really do. I think Sami is the hot hand. You got to go with the hot hand sometimes.
I also don't, to get into the weeds with this Rock thing, I wasn't a fan when he beat Punk at the Royal Rumble 10 years ago. So I don't want The Rock to be the guy who beats Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. I mean, if they're going to do the feud, do it. Have Roman go over, though. I don't want that rub to go to someone else that isn't going to benefit from it. The whole point of the rub is to build someone for the future. This rub has been building since Brock Lesnar. If you go all the way down, follow the pipeline, with Lesnar beating Taker and then Roman beating Taker as well and beating Lesnar multiple times, that rub is like waiting for someone else, and you give it to The Rock. To me, that's anticlimactic. It needs to be a guy who you're ready to elevate to the next level. If that's Sami, so be it, but at least it's a new guy.
Yeah, for me, the only reason The Rock comes back is to drop one to Roman.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, if you want to solidify Roman as the true head of the table in that family, he has to take out The Rock. I feel like that has been the no-brainer destination of this entire storyline. And Sami has kind of added this organic wrinkle
Yeah.
that we never expected to happen. But in the beginning, I feel like they knew at the end of the story, this is what we're heading towards. The biggest star in the world, the biggest movie star in the world, former WWE champion, bring him back into the fold. He drops it to Roman. Roman is a true made man if he isn't already.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the plan, I'm okay with it. But with WWE, it's never guaranteed that they're going to do right by young superstars. They're always looking for that quick reaction and trying to get on whatever platform, having The Rock win because of all his Instagram followers and how, he's the most famous dude in the world. Are they really going to allow Roman to beat him, or are they going to go with all the buzz they're going to get if they put the title on him? So I'm always leery of that because they love their legends, as we'll see tonight on Raw.
Yeah, and that'll be a good microcosm of is Triple H really behind the reins? Is the booking philosophy really that different between Trips and Vince? Because if you're reading kind of the groundswell of the fan base, I feel like there is that Sami Zayn push. So I'm very intrigued. I'm with you. The Royal Rumble is my favorite WWE pay-per-view. But I'm very intrigued to watch this event just to see how it's handled, to see the decisions that are made, because we all know the Rumble is the true kickoff to the road to WrestleMania. So I think coming out of this event, things can change. You can always take detours on the road to WrestleMania, but I think I'm very interested to see what groundwork they lay for WrestleMania. So I think it's going to be a good Rumble. I'm intrigued.
Prediction wise, Cody Rhodes wins, and they have Sammy get turned on or whatever, turns on the bloodline. He's wrestling Roman as a speed bump, which is a mistake. They're going to do it at Elimination Chamber. That's the way I think it's going to go because they're cowards. They won't pull the trigger, but I think they should go the other direction and go all in with Sami Zayn. Do it. I dare him. Do it.
Do it. I'm with you, man. The smart way, Sami Zayn wins. Seth and Cody somehow screw each other in this match to continue their feud.
Agreed.
It's not done. I feel like that feud is not over. So
I don't feel like that WWE title off of Roman somehow. Get it loose and put it on with Cody, because that's the title that Cody wants anyway. It's the WWE Championship. That's the lineage that his father wanted.
Throw him in a triple threat, man. Throw him in a triple threat with Seth Rollins and Roman for one of those titles. Split the titles up. Do something.
Yeah, let's get into quick hitters, man. We got a lot to get into here.
Yeah, let's get into the quick hitters.
We got some quick hitters here. Let's start with the first one. We mentioned Roman Reigns. There's a new report from Fightful Select that a pitch was made internally for a huge opponent for Stone Cold Steve Austin, and it wound up being Roman Reigns. So word is at the very least, Stone Cold's camp was approached with the possibility of the match happening, which was reported for an enormous amount of money. So we didn't know what location this was beyond. Like
that's Saudi money, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Could
Saudi
it be
money.
Crown Jewel, something like that, or will this be at WrestleMania? My question to you is, do you want to see this? Personally, I had my feelings about seeing Austin versus Kevin Owens last year, and it definitely wasn't. It was better than I thought it would be, but I definitely don't want to see Stone Cold versus Roman at any event. I just don't want to see Stone Cold ruin that legacy at all. I just have such a fond memory of what Stone Cold was. And we mentioned, go back to Great Muta, honoring the past. Stone Cold went off. I know he got hurt. I know all that stuff went on with him, and he probably felt like there could have been more. But you know what? I was happy with the way his career ended at WrestleMania 19 against The Rock.
I'm not against Stone Cold being involved in a match. I was pre-WrestleMania last year, but the way they handled that Kevin Owens match, it changed my mind. I was totally against it. You can go back and listen to the debates. I did not. I thought it was going to kind of sully his legacy a little bit. So I'm not opposed to him. I've seen him working out. I follow Stone Cold. He's in my top 5. I love Steve Austin, man. Even the Stunning Steve days, like Dangerous Alliance, my all-time favorite faction. Love Stone Cold.
ECW 95, Steve Austin.
Oh, come on. The best. Watch Shot of Nostalgia Fridays at 7 p.m. to catch some of that. But But come on, man. I do not want to see the Texas rattlesnake be a notch on Roman's reign. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see that. It's not necessary. I get it. You go out on your shield. You go out putting the next generation over. But there's a mystique with Austin that's been there because he left early due to injuries. He isn't an active guy. Undertaker putting over Lesnar, fine. I can get with that. Whatever. I wasn't a big fan, but I understand. But for Stone Cold to just come out and take this marquee match to drop one to Roman, hell no. I am against it 100%. I do not want to see that shit.
We also had Matt Cardona filing a trademark for Zack Ryder. We've talked about if Cardona comes back to WWE, it needs to be as Cardona. So this is a little, maybe it's smoke and mirrors. Maybe it's just him playing games. And I don't know. I do not want to see Zack Ryder come back. If he comes back to WWE, I want him to be Matt Cardona, the one we see on the Indies and Impact and GCW that has main event level talent. Zack Ryder has a glass ceiling. That glass ceiling is the Intercontinental title.
The closer we get to the Rumble, I do think he's going to be a surprise. I wonder if he's going to be a one-off surprise or if it's going to be a contract. I do not want to see Zack Ryder. I want to see Matt Cardona. I'm with you. I wonder if Cardona's such a troll with fans.
True.
Like, so
he would do something like this just to throw up make people think a certain thing. Yep.
And it honestly, him trademarking, unless this is like a joint thing and WWE's in on it, if he truly did trademark Zack Ryder, part of me thinks, well, that means he's not going to be there. And a part of me thinks he's going to be there as Cardona. And they don't care about the Zack Ryder trademark anymore.
Right, and he can also release merchandise for it as well, like on Major Pod. They can make a Zack Ryder shirt. That's also going to come into it. So
him trademarking that name is very, very intriguing going into the Rumble.
We also had former MLW middleweight champion Myron Reed is now a free agent. So if you guys know him, he's 26 years old, young dude, a lot of future ahead of him. He's a member of the Rascals along with Trey Miguel, Desmond Xavier, and Zachary Wentz. Super, super talented wrestler. I'm sure there'll be interest elsewhere. Not sure where he winds up, but I'm sure he's going to pop up in an independent near you. He's been part of, Remarkable Wrestling, where, the promotion I work with. So he's a very, very talented guy, and we'll see where he goes. Any promotion would be lucky to have him.
Yeah, he did a lot of work with Jordan Oliver too in MLW. And man, Jordan Oliver's been crushing it in GCW, transforming his body. The kid is getting in shape. But Myron Reed, good young talent, a former MLW champion. Watch out for him. I think he could land somewhere big.
So the Jade Cargill and Bow Wow storyline is seemingly dropped without explanation. So the quote was, I don't know what happened with it. Something was supposed to happen. It didn't happen. And we moved on from the situation.
I said that was going to lead into a Sasha Banks angle.
It's possible it was, but who at this point I'm like, who cares? Bow Wow.
The fact that Bow Wow's not on my AEW television is a good thing. I'm all for it. I'm glad they moved. I'm glad they pulled a Vince McMahon and just said, let them forget about that. Let's move on and not even talk about it.
So we also had Jade Cargill commenting on CM Punk. If you want to show that clip here, this was a nice thing that we had come on. A lot of people are coming out and talking positively about Punk, but Jade was just the latest.
Yeah, Jade was on the Odd Socks podcast, and she had some things to say about CM Punk.
Oh, the fact that he told me to stand on what I believe and don't be a pushover, that stuck with me. He's a great guy.
How crazy was backstage the night that Punk did that press conference?
I have no idea. So I wasn't there.
Okay.
I had already left the stadium. I had already left. So I heard about it just like the rest of the world at the same time.
Yeah.
It was pretty shocking. For my opinion, Punk's a great guy. He's been nothing but nice to the women's locker room.
Right.
He talks to me, tells me his experience again at Comic-Con. We got really close because he was my tag mate in the interviews, and I learned so much from him and so much knowledge in the industry. And again, he's been in 2 different companies, and
of course
he can do whatever the hell he wants to do. So he doesn't need it.
Right.
He does it because he loves it, and that to me speaks to me because I don't need it. I do it because I love it, and I appreciate people like.
All right, just another tally in the corner of people that support CM Punk in the AEW locker room.
It's starting to feel like the people that are against Punk is the Elite and Chris Jericho. I'm starting to get that feeling.
Time heals all wounds, man. Like I feel like everybody's, of course, there's gonna be different opinions in the locker room, but I think as time passes on, they're like, why are we mad at him again? We forget. It wasn't that bad. You know, I think that's what people are at right now.
Follow his Instagram stories. He's posting positive things about AEW wrestlers all day. And it just makes me feel like he wants to be there so bad. Like he knows that he screwed up. I hope it works out, man. That story would be great.
So we also have the GCW Collective on WrestleMania weekend was announced for the Ukrainian Cultural Center in LA, March 30th through April 2nd. This has sort of become the West Coast home for GCW, and it's obviously WrestleMania is in LA.
Beautiful
this year.
venue.
Amazing. So all the staple events minus Planet Death. And responding to its absence, Alex Colon alluded to the building not being a fan of light tubes. So interesting enough, because I'm trying to think of the last Cultural Center event. There might have not been that many hardcore moments. There may be some doors, but no light tubes. You're probably right.
Yeah, when I read the quote from Alex Colon, I started kind of compiling in my head like all the things I've seen there. A lot of crazy spots. They've even jumped off that really cool archway in the venue.
Yeah,
through some doors. I want to say Speedball and Ninja Mac maybe were fighting up on that archway, and Ninja Mac took a tumble through some doors off of it. But yeah, not a lot of light tubes, so that's interesting.
Yeah, Detroit's police and fire retirement system suing Vince McMahon, seeking declaration that would block him from heading the board of directors and expediting a sale on the company. So yeah, more stuff here with Vince McMahon popping up. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, Detroit's police and fire retirement system. It's like, how do you come into play? I guess they have stock in the company and they're just, I don't know.
Yeah. We also had The Rock appearing on CNBC's Squawk on the Street and discussing a potential WWE sale. A very politically correct answer from The Rock, talking about how it's an exciting brand, pretty complimentary of Vince as well. So nothing really of note in the quote, but talks about the success over time. And he's playing both sides of the fence, obviously. He wants to be not associated with Vince, but also likes to get paid by Vince as well. So he's sort of playing both sides right now.
Yeah, he was playing the fence. I think one of the more interesting thing is he said he believes that the right buyer has to have the same passion that Vince did. So, there's always those rumors of Rock potentially getting some financiers and trying to buy it. I don't think we're going to see that happen. I think he's tied up with the XFL, but interesting quote from The Rock.
Nick Khan came out and commented on the rumors of WWE selling to Saudi Arabia. He denied it, 100% fake, 100% made up, saying there was an imminent transaction or whatever it was. Totally false. It was absurd. I still don't buy it. What else is he going to say?
It's what I was going to say. What else would he say? Is he going to be like, oh yeah, those reports were true? Of course, deny. I think we talked about it on the last episode when UFC was selling to Endeavor. Dana White was no selling everything in the press, saying there's no sell, and then the sell was already done. So anything Nick Khan, Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, even though she's gone, Vince McMahon, any of those people that come out and say statements like this, I don't believe shit from them. Nothing.
Speaking of Vince, he reached a settlement with Rita Chatterton. If you guys remember, she was the referee that accused him of raping her inside of a limo July 1986. Didn't come up with a number, but a multi-million-dollar settlement was agreed on. So this just goes away for the money. Does this feel like an admission of guilt on Vince's side, or is it just sort of getting rid of the outside interference so he can just take over? To me, it sounds like an admission of guilt.
It's a total admission of guilt. Because there's other lawsuits that they fought tooth and nail.
Right.
It's like, don't give me this. I don't want to pay for the court costs. You've paid for the court costs on other things. You're fighting MLW right now in court. Why not just pay them off?
Right.
Like, it's a total admission of guilt. And I think it's just, and I get it, man. You get a large sum of money thrown at you. just one time, I would like someone to truly stick up for the fight and not take the payoff. I get it. If someone's throwing me millions of dollars to shut up and go away, I'd probably do the same thing. But, what are you really doing by taking that payoff? You're not helping the situation. You're not exposing the guy that you were going after. I don't know. It's a bummer.
Yeah. Well, Fightful reported that WWE have discussed bringing back the Authors of Pain and Paul Ellering. So that would be a cool little. I love that tag team in NXT. They weren't used right in WWE, and that was because I think Paul Ellering had the health issues and he wasn't taking to the main roster with them. So maybe if that package comes back together, they could really rejuvenate the tag division. They need them.
Dude, I love that. I love that tag team in NXT. You throw Paul Ellerling in a in the corner of anybody, I'm probably going to pop for it. So I hope they work it out, because I thought they were some good monsters, some big guys.
The All-Star Junior Festival 2023 is going to be on March 1st, live on New Japan Pro Wrestling World pay-per-view. 22 promotions will be sending their best to Korakuen Hall. It's the first ever All-Star Junior Festival. Junior heavyweights from all across the world, 22 promotions, guys like All Japan Pro Wrestling, Big Japan, CMLL, DDT, Dragon Gate, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Pancrase, Noah, down the line. I'm sure others will get involved, but a really cool tournament, kind of akin to what Okada alluded to on social media about potentially doing a Wrestling World Cup. This is just junior heavyweights, but leaves me hopeful that maybe other promotions will work together and do something like this. It feels very big. This feels cool.
That's super exciting. I love stuff like that. And honestly, I was a big fan of the Cruiserweight Classic on the network. I loved that. That to me, it has the feeling of this, because I know it was on the network, but it really felt like they were just bringing in the best.
Yeah.
And man, that's awesome. I hope more companies kind of jump in on that.
Willie Mack debuted on AEW Dark Elevation. I think he's also wrestling on Rampage this week. So Willie Mack is a bright star that has been across different promotions. You probably recently saw him in GCW. Really talented guy with an awesome presence. So I'm excited to see him getting some shine over in AEW.
Yeah, he had a big run in Impact. He had some great matches, and he showed up on an AEW Dark Elevation against Brian Cage, and he just lost to Brian Cage again on Rampage. So I think they might push for him. I love Willie Mack. He's fun. He's entertaining. Good dude.
William Regal was talking about his time in AEW, and he finally admitted on paper that it did not go as planned. So he said that was one of the things in the last month of AEW. It was getting far too much about me. It should have been about the talent I was with, not about me. I'm quite happy being in the background. All of it is grief. I've had my run. I couldn't have had a better last few months as far as us TV and doing that, but I didn't go there with that intention. The intention was to do something different, and it started off the way it did, but I didn't expect it to end up being this thing that it was for the last 7 months. So he continued. He just didn't want to be on TV, and he became a focal point of the MJF storyline, the BCC storyline. Personally, selfishly, I loved seeing him on TV, but he probably wanted to be back, in the background like NXT, and that just wasn't the case.
I totally get what Regal is saying. I've said on countless shows on the Turnbuckle Tavern's feed, he's one of my all-time favorites. Like, I think he's one of the most underrated wrestlers. He's in my top 10. I love William Regal. I get what he's saying, and I agree. I think he should have been a huge force in the backstage aspect of AEW. But Regal, you gotta know, dude, there are fans out there that love seeing you on TV as talent. Like, we loved that. That's why it was there. Like, we wanted to see you. I want your knowledge. I want you helping the young talent. I get all that, but man, it was so good seeing him in storyline.
So United Kingdom independent promotions announced WWE contracts have ended. So that's both Progress and Insane Championship Wrestling will no longer have their content on Peacock. They haven't really done much with it lately, but that was a relationship that was, at least having some substance to it with Triple H behind the helm. And I guess they're just moving on from it.
Yeah. I hope the UK indie scene starts getting some power behind it again, because I've read reports that when NXT UK came in, they kind of wiped out that independent scene in the UK.
Which was the goal. That's what that was the goal. Similar to NXT Japan, they tried to do, but all the promotions got together to nix it. They didn't want it happening.
Right. So hopefully, I'm a fan of Progress and everything they're doing. So hopefully, they can get their feet under them and build that back up to where it was.
Tanahashi resigns in New Japan Pro Wrestling. That's where he should end his career. Perfect spot for him. So I love that he's going to have I think it's a 2-year deal. So seeing him end his career there would be perfect.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Warner Brothers Discovery chairwoman Kathleen Finch commented on AEW during an interview with Deadline in which their decision to move forward with the Power Slap series despite Dana White's controversy was brought up. She said, "This is an experiment. The goal is we are making shows for our fans. That's who we work for. Fans of wrestling have a lot of overlap with the fans of this, and it's huge on social media. So the idea really is if we can take something that's huge on social, bring it to the linear audience, giving the fans what they want. This may surprise you to know that I did not know much about wrestling before I took this job. I know I seem like a wrestling fan, but I'm not. But I did have to learn a lot about the audience, a lot of families that watch wrestling. I was very surprised to learn this. I have a huge respect for this audience. AEW Wrestling airs on 2 of our networks, TNT and TBS, on both nights it kills. Finding something that speaks to the audience, that would be gold." I took away from this that even someone who wasn't familiar with wrestling, not in that wrestling bubble, sees the movement and the groundswell to keep AEW program, and it's alive and well. So I'm very, very confident that they see how valuable it is.
Yeah, it gave, there's a lot of like, what's WBD going to do with AEW? This is we're moving into a contract year. This gives me hope when the chairwoman of WBD says it kills, like to them, there's all this talk of ratings, but when the chairwoman is saying it kills, to them, it's a success. What they're seeing is a success, because on Twitter, you get a lot of people saying, oh, they're in the mud, the ratings are down, but it seems like the people that matter are happy with what AEW is doing, and that makes me happy as an AEW fan because I don't want them to go away.
Let's go to the results real fast from this week. On Dynamite, Bryan Danielson defeated Bandito. Darby Allin defeated Kushida. On
Great
Friday's
matches.
Rampage, Jungle Boy defeated Ethan Page. Brian Cage defeated the aforementioned Willie Mack. And Action Andretti defeated Daniel Garcia. So 2 good episodes of AEW programming, in my opinion.
Rampage is picking up, man. If you guys, I know Friday's hard. I don't watch it live on Fridays. DVR that shit and watch it because it's a good watch.
Impact Wrestling from January 19th, headlined by Mike Bailey defeating Kenny King in a pit fight by KO. This match, no pinfalls, no DQs, no ropes. The only way to win was knockout or submission, similar to the Lions Den match from back in the day with Ken Shamrock. Awesome. I mean, Mike Bailey fits that setting, and they are looking to strap the rocket to Mike Bailey, and why not?
I love this about Impact because Speedball is such a good performer. Watch him in GCW, watch him in Impact. Speedball Mike Bailey, one of the more fun people to watch. Also on this show, you gotta watch. There's some interesting shit happening with Bully Ray. Him and Mickey James really went at it on the mics. Mickey James had an all-time promo on Bully Ray. People are sleeping on Impact. If you're sleeping on Impact, I know it's kind of hard to watch. Dude, they're doing great stuff over there. Great roster. Watch Impact.
Over on Raw, Bobby Lashley earned the right to face the United States champion Austin Theory tonight on Raw 30th anniversary. He defeated Seth Rollins, Miz, Dolph Ziggler, Finn Balor, and Baron Corbin in a 6-pack challenge, which was a really good main event. Judgment Day defeated Alpha Academy as well. Their little push continues. They're going to beat the Usos, but they're getting a lot of steam behind them. People are really excited about the Dominic Mysterio stuff. And, similar to the New Day, they were giving a bad gimmick and they kind of making the most out of it.
Dude, I got to be honest. I'm a huge Alpha Academy mark.
I love them.
I'm a huge Alpha Academy mark. I love Chad Gable. I love Otis. I think Chad Gable could be, I don't know if he can be in WWE, but if you put Chad Gable in another company, that guy could be a champion.
100%.
He could be he's that good. I was an American Alpha fan, so I'll always love Alpha Academy.
Over on SmackDown, we got the return of the Firefly Funhouse. We also had Drew McIntyre and Sheamus defeating the Viking Raiders. to advance to the second round of the tournament to crown number one contenders for the tag titles. And then also we had that contract signing where Kevin Owens laid out the whole bloodline where Sami Zayn was left standing, staring at them. As I mentioned, accidental renaissance. That picture just speaks for itself. The facial expressions of everyone, of Sami and Paul Heyman and the Usos. It's just the perfect. It was so good. Seeing Owens get the one-uppance on the bloodline finally, it was really cool. They're really making Owens feel important.
Dude, I'm the most highly critical person of the way WWE handles shit. But if you're someone shitting on the way this bloodline story is going, you're just being a hater. This is a fun story. Week to week, they find ways to just continue to push this story and make it interesting. I loved the way they set this up. I'm in for it, man. I think they're doing this really, really, really good.
Over on New Japan Pro Wrestling, we finally got night 2 of Wrestle Kingdom, 3 weeks removed from the original night 1. It was a split show with Pro Wrestling Noah, and it was really just a battle between factions. LIJ, Los Ingobernables de Japan versus Congo, the two mainstay factions on both sides. And the main card, as we mentioned in the opening story, opened up with a tribute to Jay Briscoe. He held gold in both New Japan and also Noah with his brother Mark. It ended with Marufuji and Tanahashi holding portraits of Jay, and then after the 10-bell salute, they played Reach for the Sky, played through the Yokohama Arena, which was really awesome.
I had a tear in my eye, holding the picture frames of Jay. It just really hit me in that moment, like, damn, this guy. It wasn't just the American. This guy had a global touch to pro wrestling. It was nice, man. It was really nice.
And the main thing to take away from this show was Kato Kiyomiya versus and Iomura from Noah versus Okada and Maccabi. So this was a faction warfare on both sides. Noah versus New Japan. The champion of Noah being Kiyomiya. He is the GHC champ. That's the world champ equivalent to it. Okada obviously is the IWGP World Heavyweight champ. So these guys going at it. They did a work shoot in this where it was a no contest, and Kato kicked Okada right in the face multiple times, where I've never seen this from Okada ever. The emotion that came out of him, to me, I don't think it's hyperbole to say it was the most exciting New Japan angle I've seen. I was shocked to see it, to the point where people were sending it to me in text message saying, is this a shoot? Like, were they going at it to this point? And it definitely was a work shoot. And I think where they're building towards potentially having these guys face each other, maybe title for title. I don't know what it looks like, but I'm really excited to see it. And if you haven't seen that clip and even the aftermath with Okada, I haven't seen that side of him ever. And I've been watching a lot of Okada in my long time of watching wrestling, and he feels like he's tapping into a new level here.
So this was a work
shoot. Yeah.
Holy dude. I've never seen Okada look like this. Hats off to both of these guys, because they worked my ass. I was totally bought in. I mean, the emotion because Okada is known for being the very stoic,
100%.
He's just the definition of stoic. And to see him lose his cool, even in the post-fight pressers and everything, he was playing this up. We have a little clip. I altered it to kind of avoid getting dinged on YouTube, so it's in a negative palette, but just to get, you guys will get a sense of what went down with this clip. Okada just going in on it. Check this out. Dude, that kick to the face, we talk snug and stiff. That was about as snug and stiff as you could get.
Not to mention the receipts on the outside too. So there might have been some legitimate anger there, but from everything I'm reading and conversation, this is building towards a bigger angle with Okada and Kato. So, man, I'm looking forward to it. We also had Naito defeating Keno. By the end of the night, it was New Japan Pro Wrestling got the edge on top, 5-4-1. Obviously, the one being the no contest in the tag match with Okada and Kato. We also had the next night, New Beginnings from Nagoya. Some tag matches here, highlighted by Will Ospreay, TJP, Akira, and Harade defeated Dookie. Taka Michinoku, yes, that Taka, Taichi, and Kanemaru. And Shingo Takagi, he's the King of Pro Wrestling Provisional Champion right now, defeated Great Okan to retain. Not that much going on storyline-wise, but if you're looking for New Japan action, it was pretty good stuff.
Yeah. Dude, sign me up. You said Taka Michinoku. Come on.
He's still killing it, by the way. It looks amazing.
We haven't seen that. Like, he's still crying. Yes, that Taka Michinoku. That's awesome. Ospreay in the match with him. What's more, that I love seeing the generational pairings and gaps of, like, who ever thought we'd see Ospreay against Taka Michinoku? Come on.
Exactly. And then GCW, there were 3 events that happened this weekend. Don't Talk to Me from Concord, North Carolina. The world champion Nick Gage came out and talked about his history with the Briscoes, paying tribute to them. And El Hijo del Vikingo versus Gringo Loco. And this was shown on Fight TV, thankfully. Great match between the two of them.
Gringo Loco, incredible against Vikingo. I mean, come on. That's a barn burner waiting to happen.
And then Take a Picture from Huntsville, Alabama on the 21st the next day, headlined by the Tag Team Championship match. Los Macizos were taking on the East West Express, Jordan Oliver and Nick Wayne. Thought they were going to go over here, 18 minutes and 55 seconds, but Los Macizos retained the titles, so I think we have to wait on Jordan Oliver and Nick Wayne and getting their tag title run. I thought it was happening.
Yeah, Los Macizos, man, they're booking them really, really strong. Cole Radrick defeating Alley Catch, fun match.
And we also had GCW versus New South from Florence, Alabama. Not much going on. Pretty much another tag team championship match here. Non-titles. It was the tag team champions of New South, Infrared, which is Tyler Matrix and Logan James taking on Los Macizos. So double duty for the tag teams. A really good match. But yeah, if you're into GCW action, they gave you all you can handle this weekend. 3 shows in a row.
Yeah, that New South Championship between Kinsey Page and Billy Starks. I'm a huge fan of Billy Starks. Go into our archives of visits to the Tavern. We spoke to Billy Starks. I think she's the future of the business. And Kinsey Page, man, she showed up on AEW Dark. She's been putting in work. She does a lot of great stuff too. So good, 2 good young female talent coming up in the business.
Let's get to Dave's Raves. I know we've been a little bit longer, but you know what? We're taking time to talk about Jay Briscoe. And to me, that makes it worth it. We got to stay here as long as it takes.
That was beyond worth it.
All right. So we got Dave's Raves. So the newsletter dropped on Monday. I could just tell you this. I think universally everyone has their opinions on Dave Meltzer, the journalist, but I think no one can dispute how well written his obituaries, his tributes to pro wrestlers that have passed. Go through the list, whether it be Eddie Guerrero, latest being Jay Briscoe, guys that it's a historical reference of everything that went on in their career, filled with quotes and references. I take the time right now to check out what he wrote about Jay Briscoe. It's about 10 pages long. The one thing he wrote in there, aside from just everything with their career, pretty much giving you everything you need to know about everything he's done and how people felt about what happened. He said this past year, there were many attempts to get them on the show, being AEW. They were actually flown in a few times to TV, but they weren't allowed to be used. There were plans for them on the 9/4 All Out show in Chicago to be in the 6-man tag with FTR and Wardlow versus the Briscoes and Jay Lethal. But without being able to promote it on TV, because the broadcast partners didn't want them on AEW broadcast, the decision was made to bring in the Motor City Machine Guns out of nowhere to team with Lethal. So remember that happening. That felt random. But can you imagine Lethal and the Briscoes teaming at All Out on pay-per-view?
God, it makes sense now because the Motor City Machine Guns felt so out of place. And it just makes me that much more angry at Warner Brothers Discovery because I'm like, how could you keep that from us? They needed that moment. Could you imagine the Briscoes at All Out? Come on.
And that makes sense too. FTR and the Briscoes were feuding and Wardlow and Lethal at the time were feuding. It makes more sense than a random Motor City Machine Guns from Detroit in Chicago. Like the tie wasn't there. And I love Motor City Machine Guns. It just
I do too.
Felt so random. I guess they were in town for whatever reason and Tony brought them in, and can't knock Tony for trying. He tried to get them in.
It seems like that to hear Nick Jackson say it, they just kept trying to get them involved. And the fact that it just doors kept getting shut in their face of bringing them to AEW. It's truly kind of heartbreaking and just very, very disappointing.
His match of the week was Bryan Danielson versus Bandito from January 18th from Fresno, California, 17 minutes and 53 seconds. He gave it 4.5 stars and was my match of the week as well. That was a crazy good match.
Yeah, it was a banger.
Performer of the week was Bryan Danielson, and another match that he put to watch here. Darby Allin beat Kushida to regain the TNT Championship in 13 minutes and 35 seconds. He gave that 4 stars as well. 2 of the highest ranked matches for the week.
I love that match. Marty McFly tearing it up, man. That move, the jump off of the top when from Darby onto the floor into the arm bar was incredible.
Fantastic. Let's get to the week ahead and preview what's going on for the rest in wrestling. All right, we got some good stuff to look forward to. We have AEW Dynamite from Kentucky. Bryan Danielson versus Brian Cage. This is match 3 of 5 to get to the Iron Man match with MJF for the AEW Championship. We also have Darby Allin versus Buddy Matthews. Has me thinking, has you hoping, maybe a start of a House of Black program for the TNT Championship. Get Malachi involved?
Please, God. I mean, Darby's had the beef with Brody King. Now he's getting an open challenge with Buddy Matthews. Is Malachi Black next? House of Black needs something. It seems like this thing with Kingston and Ortiz is getting a little hairy because Kingston's hit Ortiz with a chair. At first, I thought they were going to bring Homicide in and we were going to get a 6-man feud between Homicide, Ortiz, and Kingston and House of Black. But now that Eddie turned on Ortiz, maybe they're moving away from that. I truly hope Darby went to Tony and is like, I want to feud with these guys. I hope that's the case. Fingers crossed. They need to use House of Black better.
Side note about Homicide, you mentioned he just won the Outlaw Championship, which is a promotion near me. He's wrestling Speedball Mike Bailey at the Brooklyn Brewery next weekend. So if you guys are in the Brooklyn area or Queens, it might be Brooklyn or Queens, whatever, New York area, go out and check out Speedball versus Homicide for the Outlaw Championship. I'm definitely
Homicide's a legend. Anytime to see Homicide, go see him. I mean, he's a legend.
He just wrestled Crowbar in a dog collar match with Vinny Stigma in his corner, which was fucking awesome.
That's awesome.
And that's where he won the Outlaw Championship. Anyway, Raw and SmackDown, it's 30th anniversary of Raw from Philadelphia tonight. Austin Theory versus Bobby Lashley for the U.S. title. The Tag Team Championship on the line. The Usos versus Dominic and Damian Priest. A steel cage match, Becky Lynch versus Bayley. And the trial of Sami Zayn. So this was interesting. It was supposed to be the Bloodline celebration, but it was changed. I wrote in my notes, creative shifting, but we've got some information about this. It seems as though Afa and Sika and Rikishi were all supposed to be there, but they were unable to make it. So they shifted what was happening because they wanted to have all the family there. So I don't think it's more they're moving away from Sami Zayn being part of the Bloodline. And it may happen tonight. It may have, ramifications where Sami gets turned on or whatever. But I think their original plan was to have this ceremony with the family there. And I think they're probably going to wait until everybody's healthy to get them in the building.
Last minute changes get me worried. Vince is back in town. Yeah, I mean, hold off. If you're getting the Wild Samoans and Rikishi involved, hold off and do it right.
Other guys involved, big names announced for Raw tonight: Triple H, Hogan, Taker, Flair, Shawn Michaels, Kurt Angle, Ron Simmons, X-Pac, go down the list, Alundra Blaze, Lita, whatever, man. They're pulling out all the stops here. I'm sure Stone Cold will be there as well. But a lot of names for the 30th anniversary of Raw. We could talk about the anniversary of Raw and what it means to us, but, to me, it's a hollow entity at this point, and I'm a little bit soured on the brand that is Raw. It feels like they've been so far removed, even 15 years ago.
I mean, it's a tale of two Raws for me. Raw was so monumental in my wrestling fandom, but it's been so shitty
for a while now.
For a while that I have two feelings of it. There's Raw post corporate globalization bullshit, and then there's what we've experienced for the last 15, 20 years So
SmackDown's this Friday. It's the go-home show for the Royal Rumble. We got Kevin Owens versus Solo Sikoa, Karrion Kross versus Rey Mysterio. We get the Banger Bros, Drew McIntyre and Sheamus versus Hit Row, semifinal of the Tag Team Contenders Tournament. And we got Legado del Fantasma versus Imperium, which is another semifinal of the Tag Team Contenders Tournament. So some good matches. Most of all, I'm very excited they're announcing matches. That's not a WWE thing, and we got 4 matches announced here.
yeah, that's a good thing. That's a Triple H thing, so that's good.
For Impact, they're building towards No Surrender on February 24th. The taping's already happened, so you guys can check it out if you want to, but we'll preview the card next week and talk about what's coming up only a few weeks from now, about a month. No Surrender.
Yeah, and keep an eye on Bully Ray, man. He's doing a lot of interesting stuff. I even heard a Gail Kim rumor. Gail Kim came out and said if Mickie James requested a match with her, she would come out of retirement for that. And I'm a huge Gail Kim fan, so keep your eyes on that. There could be some interesting things happening in Impact Wrestling.
So we got some GCW events coming up. The most recent will be GCW and JCW, the Jersey J Cup. A lot of good names announced for this. February 11th, White Eagle Hall, Jersey City, New Jersey. But go on GCW's Instagram, find the events. There's March 17th, St. Patty's Day. They're coming to New York, which thinking about going. GCW does a good job of building these matches out, but they're hard to follow. And I'm a guy who follows GCW, but on their Instagram, it's all over the place. So
there's so much stuff. Look at the results in quick hitters, man. There was 3 events. It's like you got to stay on top of them because there's so much content GCW puts out. It is sometimes hard to follow.
100%. That's someone who has their finger on the pulse, and it's even hard to follow. Even if you go to their Instagram, it has stuff that's coming up in May and then stuff that's coming up next week. And it's like, I don't know, something should be always pinned to the top, but they do great posters. They do great promotional things like that. But as far as maybe they need to wait to announce some of the other things before they post it on their Instagram. I don't know. There's something confusing about it.
Yeah. There's so many shows. You get lost in the sauce. So,
well, that's all I got, for the week ahead. That's everything we have here. There was a lot of information. I know we went 15 minutes over, but you know what? That 15 minutes was given to Jay Briscoe in the beginning, and I would have went another 35 minutes talking about him because truly he deserves it.
Yeah, I had to pause myself because we could have done the entire show. We could have done an entire celebration show on Jay Briscoe. And like I said, he'll be a permanent part of this show. We will not let the legend of Jay Briscoe die.
No, we will not. And anything coming up that they need to know, obviously we have the flagship on Thursday. We got a Raw Down coming up. Shot Nostalgia season finale is going to be December to Dismember of season 2. Also Holiday Hell of ECW. We're moving on next week to the WWF 1998.
I mean, what's more exciting than that? Come on, guys. Like, I know, like, there's some people that maybe you weren't an ECW kid, but everybody likes the Attitude Era. Everybody likes 1998. I am so hyped for season 3 of Shot of Nostalgia. I think it's going to be the best season yet. And I'm a WCW guy. I love season 1 with 1996 WCW, but this 1998 WWF Shot of Nostalgia season, I think you guys are going to enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. The other thing is on Friday, directly following Shot of Nostalgia, I'll be interviewing on a Visits the Tavern, the Dracula Kid, Sam Hain. So there will be a Visit the Tavern for the next 6 or 7 Fridays following Shot of Nostalgia.
That's exciting.
So a lot of independent wrestlers coming through. So just stay tuned to my Instagram about who's coming up. I don't want to overload you with the information, but just know Sam Hain, the Dracula Kid, is going to be coming. He's one half of the Midnight Cowboys. He's also in a band called Stabbed. Really in a hardcore band scene. Really awesome guy. I can't wait to get into it with him.
Yeah, I'm excited for all the Visits to the Tavern coming up. We're going to try and keep those rolling, get some, and we love shining. I know we talk all wrestling here on Wrestling Tonight and across the Turnbuckle Tavern, all the shows here, but I think Visits the Tavern is a really fun thing you guys should check out because that's our chance to really shine a light on the independents and the up and comers and the people really, the next generation of the guys you're going to be watching on television. So if you haven't, go back in the archives, all the visits to the tavern. There's a lot of interesting people telling very interesting stories on there.
Yeah, not just the ones I've done recently. Go back and watch Too Bad Chad's talk to a guy like Ninja Mac and also Shane Taylor. I mean, there's been guys that have been on there as well. I'm missing names right now. I'm drawing a blank, but there's
we had Nick Aldis, we had Thunder Rosa, we had Fuego del Sol. If you go back deep, there's a lot of big names on there, man. So go. And these are people that at the time we talked to them, maybe they weren't as big as they are now. So you never know who's going to blow up from the people that visit the tavern.
Yeah, and I'm confident that in the coming year, some of the guys we've interviewed, specifically a guy like Desmond Cole, the Slime Balls, Sal Savelli, those guys are going to do huge things, not just in the Northeast. There's a groundswell of really talented wrestlers just in my area. But, tap into your independence and find those gems, man. Go out and support them. Tickets on the weekend are probably like $20, $15. Go enjoy live wrestling and maybe subscribe to IWTV and check out Remarkable Wrestling or check out Beyond Wrestling, Wrestling Open. There's so much good shit happening. Go check out Invictus, the promotion that young Anthony works with. There's a lot of really good wrestling happening that sometimes you got to dig for, but sometimes digging makes it even better because, you find some really hidden gems and you get to say you know them prior to them making it big, and that's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. In our neck of the woods, we have ASW, All-Star Wrestling, and then thankfully, Pro Wrestling Conquest is coming back. We got Matt Justice coming back, and they're announcing more names. So it's good to have one of our great promotions finally coming back to put on another show. So yeah, we're big fans of indie wrestling here at the Tavern. Like you said, Ace, you got to go out and support it. That support independent wrestling.
It's the lifeblood, man. Truly, it's the lifeblood of pro wrestling. If there was no independent wrestling, there wouldn't be the wrestling you know and love. They continue to fuel that system and build the next generation.
Yep.
So that you don't see them putting in the work right now, but they're going to be on your TVs in 10, 15 years. And, maybe they'll be one of these guys that visits the Tavern. I certainly see them working super hard. Every event that I work and every practice I go to, I see these guys grinding and they're so, so talented. So, shout out to all those guys.
Yeah. I love catching them on the come up. It gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling to know that I was there from the beginning, man.
Hell yeah, man.
So guys, that's Wrestling Tonight this week. Hopefully we kind of kept you up to speed on what's going on. We'll return every Monday, 7 p.m. If you can, go to theturnbuckletavern.com. Find us on Apple and Spotify. We're there on Tuesday mornings. Give us a rating, a review. It helps us so much. Tons of shows coming up. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel, it's going to keep you up to date on everything we got coming out. I think we have shows dropping on the channel 5-6 days a week. There's shows on the Apple and Spotify dropping 5 to 6 days a week. So we're always here bringing you pro wrestling content.
Hell yeah, man. And as WrestleMania weekend approaches too, you guys stay tuned for that. We're going to have you covered from window to window with that shit. There's going to be GCW, WrestleMania, everything that goes to Impact. We got you covered, especially here, man. We'll keep you up to date what's going on WrestleMania weekend.
Oh yeah. It's going to be a big, big show next Monday. So tune in for the fallout of the Rumble. I mean, we're going to be covering a lot of stuff. It'll be a good week to follow the Tavern. Give us a subscribe. Until next week, guys, keep it snug and stiff, and we'll see you then.
Reach for the sky, boy.